my friends? Chris back again today, and I'm having a great day because you guys are probably having a great day because we all get to mingle and hang out today and talk about some movies. So what do y'all want to talk about? Okay, I got one for you. So, admittedly, I'm a big fan of Svengoolie, right? Love Svengoolie. Always have, since, a few years ago when I discovered him. But anyway, I always try to catch his shows on Saturday nights. It's from 7 to 9:30 on MeTV. So I'm always catching his shows. Because he shows old horror movies, black and white, stuff from the 70s, 80s. He shows a lot of B stuff. And I'm an admitted fan of old B horror movies. I like them. They look terrible. The acting's terrible. But God dog it, they are just endearing. So, I'm watching Svengoolie. And this week on Svengoolie, he has a movie called The Invisible Ray, starring Boris Karloff and Bela Lugosi. So, I didn't look up who directed this or what year it came out. I know it came out. They had already done The Black Cat and The Raven together. So I'm guessing this is like late 30s, early 40s maybe that they did that, or they made this film. And it wasn't quite as good, or it's not really a gothic horror tale like The Black Cat or The Raven. This is more of a science fiction piece. And it was entertaining. I liked it a lot. I thought that it was... Well, here's the thing. I thought it was entertaining, of course, and it was like proto-sci-fi. You know what I mean? There was a little bit of sci-fi in it, or the beginnings of sci-fi. They were still trying to make it, a little more horror. But what I really thought, okay, and this is another reason I like Svengoolie, is because he gives trivia and little facts and tidbits of knowledge about actors, writers, the films in general, that kind of thing. So... Svengoolie is, he was talking about the film, and it comes out shortly after Madame Curie, or Mary Curie, or Mary Callender, or whatever her name was, that did the radiation. She died from exposure to radiation. She was all surrounded by it all the time. That lady had passed away. And so we don't, no one really knew a whole lot about radiation. All we knew was it was like this invisible force that could cause us harm and yada, yada, yada. And so it's interesting to see how people from the 1930s, 40s, whatever, how they viewed radiation compared to how we view radiation. Like, we know so much more about radiation than they did back then. And to think that it's like, he discovers this type of radiation that is like it heals people, but if you eat too much, it kills you. Like, so he gets this death touch, Boris Karloff does. And it's just the premise of the movie is kind of silly because there's this like love triangle tryst going on with Karloff's this old creepy dude, and he's got this young wife who's kind of having a fling with a dude, a younger apprentice kind of guy. And, so he's like, I'm now irradiated and gonna touch you with my death touch, out of jealousy and all that. And it's just, the story itself is pretty preposterous and silly. But what I really liked was that just seeing back then how people viewed things that we know as scientific facts today, how they just kind of saw them as almost like magic. And that was like really, really cool to me. And maybe it's not cool. Maybe it's sad that they were so ignorant to things. But I mean, it's just cool to see how people back then viewed things that we know so much more about today. And to me, that was just a really cool part of the movie. Overall, the acting was decent. I mean, we got Bela Lugosi and Boris Karloff, and they're kind of doing their thing. They're acting. Karloff is, again, the older guy with the curly hair, and Lugosi looks like Dracula with a goatee, because that's Lugosi, prime Lugosi. And, and the special effects were interesting because, when Karloff is getting irradiated or whatever, like his silhouette starts to glow. It's almost like he has kind of an aura around him. And that was interesting to see. That may have been ahead of its time back in the 30s or 40s. I mean, it was a cool little special effect detail. But what we start off with is this thing of, they're they're talking to us about like what was once viewed as myth can one day be viewed as fact and all this stuff. And then we start off really solid with like Spooky Mountain, yada yada, and then we go into the second part of the film, which is overly long and not really that entertaining. And then we get our climax, which is again kind of subpar. This isn't as good as the movies that these two guys have made before. And again, it's not a gothic horror tale. It's not a horror film. It's like pre-science fiction. You know, it's up there with Metropolis. Maybe not as good as Metropolis as far as, you know, old sci-fi, but I mean, you know, it's in that same vein of exploring scientific notions with a fantastical mind. And I loved that. I thought that was very interesting. So The Invisible Ray, if you guys want to check it out, I'm sure you can find it on Tubi or somewhere like that. In fact, I think I saw it streaming on Tubi. You guys can check it out there. I'm going to give it 3 out of 5 stars because it's Karloff and Lugosi, and it's interesting. Again, interesting and educational to a degree. But thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you want to find me on Facebook, look me up in the Cinema Dolce Facebook group. And that's it, guys. I'm going to keep making them as long as you keep watching them. And I'm going to keep watching them as long as you keep watching these. So peace out. God bless, and I love you guys.